Hey everyone, Eric Hayden here in the garden. Exciting news today. I want to talk about fertilizing your roses with a trash can. Yes, I said fertilizing your roses or your garden or any of your plants with a trash can. This is not a new method that I invented. Kitty Belendez has a good video on this from many years ago. My father had a big 275-gallon tote that he used a sump pump to fertilize the garden. So again, it's nothing new, but I kind of want to go over how I'm doing it. This is the first time and why I'm doing it. If you're just tuning into this channel, I have over 40 rose bushes, 42 hybrid teas, a couple climbing roses. So I'm trying to do things as efficiently as possible. Don't look at this video and think, wow, to grow roses, I have to go out there and get a trash can and a sump pump. This is just something that has been years and years in the making. If you've seen my prior videos, we use multiple 4-gallon buckets. As the roses have gotten bigger, that has just become less efficient. I need more than what the buckets can provide. I was looking at getting more buckets and that just didn't make sense. And the final straw was that alfalfa tea video I made. When I went to apply that in the garden, the handles broke twice on those plastic buckets. So I got alfalfa tea on me twice. First time, you know, sometimes things break. Second time, hey, it's a sign. And I've had those buckets since about 2014. So they were certainly long in the tooth and needed to be replaced. So today's video is all about fertilization. Just a quick look at the garden. Some of the roses that have been recently pruned, not leafed out as much, but other ones are looking fantastic. You can see that foliage on Louise Estes. Another one that's looking good is Mr. Caleb. Outstanding fertilization. Since we're talking about fertilizer, I usually do the liquid every 2 weeks. You can do it once a month. Consistency is more important than doing it too much. So don't worry about doing, you know, every little thing. Just once a month, bare minimum, will certainly help your roses. I do it every 2 weeks. You could even do it weekly, but you're going to want to dilute the solution. So I usually aim for a tablespoon per gallon of the fish emulsion and Miracle-Gro generic. You would want to do a half tablespoon per gallon if you do it weekly. This is Veteran's Honor. You can see the result of our alfalfa tea and fertilization and warm weather, starting to get some buds. And again, the lower leaves look terrible because of that freeze we had, but look at all the top growth looking outstanding. So the point of this video is going to talk about how I'm now applying fertilizer. Again, if you've seen any of my prior videos, I had 11 of these 4-gallon containers. I would mix Miracle-Gro. In this case, it's generic. It's much cheaper at the farm supply. It's 20-20-20. And I mix fish emulsion. And it's a 1/4 cup per 4-gallon container. That's your tablespoon per gallon. And I would roughly apply it a gallon or so per bush. A little bit more for the bigger bushes, a little bit less for the smaller bushes. Now I'm upgrading. Instead of having multiple 4-gallon containers, I'm going to have 2 32-gallon trash cans. So I put one at this end of the rose bed and one at the other end of the rose bed. Instead of fooling with 1/4 cup measurements, I went, and I'll link all this in the description below, went out to Walmart. You can get them anywhere. Got a bigger measuring cup. This is only used in the garden. I'll keep it in my shed. So 2 cups of the Miracle-Gro or generic 20-20-20 and 2 cups of the fish emulsion will be enough for a 32-gallon trash can, and that gives me my tablespoon per gallon. If you saw a prior video, I got a hose and sprayer. I could not figure out the dilution rate for liquid, something like, you know, water soluble. And again, I got to be honest, I'm just not, my trade is meteorology. I'm a scientist. I want precision. And I wasn't into the hose and sprayer because it's dependent on a lot of things, including water pressure. Me mixing 2 cups of fish emulsion per 32-gallon container, I know this mixture is a tablespoon per gallon, so it's exact. Now, how am I going to get it out? I bought a sump pump, and again, I will link this in the description. It was just something I got on Amazon, nothing too crazy. So the sump pump is hooked up to my hose. It has a you know, a standard garden end, but you can also convert it to 1 inch if you have big hoses as well. So that will sit in the bottom of my mixture. plenty of hose to my hose reel. A neighbor actually gave us this. I only use it occasionally for watering with house water. We have well water, so I usually use that. But hey, it's sitting around. I bought a 25-foot hose, but I'm going to return that because what I have is going to work. So sucks the liquid out, comes down, and I bought a hose end nozzle so that I can do a spray onto the garden itself. My plan is to now fill these trash cans up with water. I'm going to mix in the fish emulsion and Miracle Grow, and then I'll show you how I'm applying it. 2 quick steps that I'm going to do. Number 1, I'm going to put my 2 cups of fish emulsion, 2 cups of 20-20-20 in this small bucket, stir it up, probably just the Miracle Grow. Fish emulsion mixes pretty well. Pre-mix it so I can dissolve it, then add it to the big container because I don't want to worry about not mixing up those water-soluble granulars. The other tip is I'm going to water with the end of the hose into my 4-gallon empty bucket and time it. It's usually about 35 seconds. I've done it before. I just want to make sure that that rate is the same. So when I go around and water, if I give it say 15-20 seconds per bush, 30 seconds per bush, I'll know exactly what I'm putting on each bush. And I'm going to aim for a little more than a gallon, maybe even 2 gallons for some of the more established bushes. And then some of these smaller ones, I'm going to do a gallon. So with that precision, measuring out what my rate is, I'll have a good idea of what I'm actually putting on. So let's get at it. It's going to take a little while to fill these trash cans up. I'll show you how the whole process works. But again, we're just taking what we did on a smaller scale. Instead of multiple buckets, we have 2 32-gallon trash cans using a sump pump hooked up to a garden hose with a sprayer on the end, and we will be applying this concoction. It's been about 2 weeks since the last one to the rose garden. So let's get at it. So the mixture is just about ready now. Again, it was 2 cups of the fish emulsion, 2 cups of the 20-20-20, and a 32-gallon trash can. I'll go ahead and mix up the other trash can, and then I'll go ahead and apply the fertilizer here shortly. But I can tell you right away, it's much easier mixing 1 or 2 large trash cans than it is a whole bunch of smaller ones and then carrying them all over the place. We're just about done with the second trash can being full, and I have to admit, while doing this video, this one I pre-mixed the 20-20-20 in a smaller bucket, kind of stirred it up. This one I forgot to. I just put the 20-20-20 in and then the fish emulsion and started adding water, and I just stirred it, and I don't see any difference. So I'll probably not pre-mix them to get them stirred up. I think it's more than fine. So once that's done filling up, next up is just to drop the sump pump in. I've got the hose stretched out, and I'm ecstatic. I've thought about doing this since 2013 when I started growing roses. I overthink and think about things, and I'm cheap, so I didn't want to spend the money on the pump. I wasn't sure how the trash can thing was going to work, but so far, unless this is a total fail in terms of applying it to the garden, this is a way to go for medium to large gardens. If you're watching this video and you have just a few roses, then of course flowering, watering cans and smaller buckets are the way to go. If you have anything that's a medium to large size, I recommend the trash cans, and they can stack inside each other so they don't take up a ton of room in a garage or a shed. So I'm going to stop this before it overflows. We'll drop in the sump pump and we'll get started, and I'll show you what it looks like as I apply it to the garden. So I'm going to go ahead and drop the sump pump. Of course you have to have power, so I did have to drag out a pretty long extension cable. So this itself is built with a really long power cable. So that just goes down into the tank itself, or in this case trash can, not a tank. Make sure it goes all the way to the bottom. It will take up the liquid all the way to the bottom itself. And then it cannot be run dry, so make sure that you put that in first before you do the power. So here's the power part. So my sump pump has now been powerized. The water is through the container itself. And then just to give it a little test before I do into the garden itself, I'm just going to get some of the liquid out. So give it a second to power up. Oh, there's always a kink in the hose when you're trying something, right? So we'll get this kink out of the hose. So again, I just want this line to pressurize. So we're just going to turn it on. It's getting the air out itself. So once it gets all of the air out and kind of pressurizes, now I know that I have a pretty good rate of flow right now. So now I'm going to pour it into a bucket itself. This is a 4-gallon bucket, and I'm just going to count how long it takes to apply, like a gallon or two, so I know when I do the garden itself. So we'll say 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Now the whole point of that was, this is about a gallon. This is about a quarter of this bucket. So if I water each plant about 30 seconds, I know that I'll have about a gallon of solution. So I'm gonna go ahead and water, and then we'll get this garden complete. If I want a little bit more solution, I'll do the 45 seconds to maybe a minute, and that'll give it a couple gallons of solution. So we'll get started here in a second. All right, so far so good. First thing I've noticed is it's applying at a real slow rate, so this is probably going to take me a while, but you can see in the trash can it is going down. So that's not the end of the world, because you don't want this running off. You want to make sure I'm getting some on the leaves. The leaves will take in some of this liquid fertilization, but they're certainly more efficient through the roots themselves. One thing I might try for the next time is, I'm using the resources I have. We already were given this hose. It's probably 75, maybe 50 to 75 feet. So the pressure is not quite what I wanted. So I may use a smaller hose so that I don't have to go quite as far. But you can see just from about a minute or so, the concentration has gone down. The pump is certainly working. So we'll give it a go and see how it is. So that's it for this video. Comment below. I'm kind of curious, how do you fertilize your roses? The trash can method, I'll give it the thumbs up for now. The one thing I might refine is trying to get a shorter hose. I did purchase one to see if that helps with the pressure. In the comment section below, the description, I will link to the pump I have, the trash can, this hose and sprayer, just so you can buy the same parts. As always, I appreciate the new subscribers. I wanted to add one thing because I quickly realized something. I've done about half the garden so far, but if you saw earlier in the video, the output was pretty slow. It was a gallon per 30 seconds with this new device I got Walmart. You get what you pay for, but I thought it might not be this. I thought it might be the hose length. Again, that's about a 50 to 75 foot hose reel. So I hooked up the new 25-foot hose reel that I had, put this on there, still slow, took this off, filled up the 4-gallon bucket, and it came out super quick. So it's the nozzle, not the length, that was slowing things up. I thought, the pump is rated pretty high for gallons per minute. So just to prove this point, this is my normal dram, watering wand that I usually water with. This is a good example of you get what you pay for. This volume output is much, much faster. At a gallon per 30 seconds or 2 gallons a minute. It would have taken me forever to water this garden with this fish emulsion 20-20-20 mix. So I'm going to go finish the rest now. I hope you watched the end of the video. The hose length, not quite as important as the nozzle type. If you have no nozzle on the end, it flows really, really fast. Or if you're going to do a nozzle, make sure a dram or some high quality one. The one I had from the big box store just was pathetic, only putting out 2 gallons a minute. It was not the pump, wasn't the hose length, it was the nozzle on the end. And again, of course, if you have no nozzle, it will go the fastest in the garden, but you don't have the control like this. So you can see this rate clearly is better than what I had before. So wanted to end on a good note, but we're honest here on this YouTube channel. I'm not showing you everything that just works, because that's not reality. We all know life. It's through trial and error that you figure out what works. But clearly you can see having a good nozzle on the end, like my normal dram, is going to work a lot better than some cheap one bought at the store. Happy watering, everyone. And if you could only smell the fish emulsion, you might not be doing this as often as I do. Take care, everyone.